Hey, everybody, welcome back for another episode of The Overlay, a poker podcast brought to you by CCG Poker, Chicagoland's #1 live charity poker experience. I'm here today with my guest host, Brandon. Hey, Brandon, how are you?
Pretty good. What do you mean guest?
Oh, with my co-host. Sorry, dog. I forgot this is the
host.
only...
It's fine. I could be the guest in your podcast.
No. This is the only thing where we're like on a level playing field, so I want everybody to know that we're co-hosts with the mosts. Ooh. Pre-Brandon question before we get into today's topic. What was your favorite hostess dessert? Would you like me to lead with mine so you have a second to think about it?
No, I think I know mine. No, yeah, go ahead. Lead with yours.
Cosmic brownies. I think that's a Little Debbie's, but I'm kind of going in general of like all kind of dessert things. Like you could say an Entenmann's donut if you wanted to.
Oh, I think mine would be like those like cinnamon strudel ones.
Ooh, I do like a good cinnamon strudel.
Like I'm not a Twinkie guy. I'm not a ho-ho guy.
Love Twinkies. Love ho-hos. I didn't understand the difference between a ho-ho and a ding-dong. Heyo. Just in general, like one's round, one's logular.
Yeah, I guess that's the only difference, right?
I guess so. Hey,
what about those like little cupcakes with the little cupcakes, the little chocolate cupcakes with the cream filling?
You mean Hostess cupcakes?
Swirl. Yeah.
Those are like the OGs. Those are really good.
Yeah.
I always like a good one of those. And I always find if you try to get like a fake 7-Eleven version, they're never as good.
It's no good.
All right. Hey, everybody. It is the end of November 2023, which means the largest charity poker event is coming up in the Chicagoland area, the Black Friday event from CCG Poker. This year is going to be in Countryside. So today's episode is going to be dedicated to how to navigate large field poker tournaments. And now we're not talking about, like a big early bird that's got like 80 to 100 players. Like that's a decent sized bird. Or, $20 tournament or entry, or really any tournament. 80 to 100 player tournament is a good size field no matter what. We're kind of going on the idea of larger fields than that, 20 to 30 tables, correct?
Yeah.
Or do you go like WSOP style and you're talking about, 2,000 people in a tournament, that kind of craziness.
I mean, yeah, I would say that our version of a 2,000 person WSOP tournament is
the Black Friday early bird. Yeah.
Right.
Where you're talking about 20-something tables, 300 to 500 entries in the tournament.
Yeah, moving parts going all over the place. Yeah.
Table changes are difficult. Lots of stuff going on. And the idea of today's episode is to kind of talk about strategy as a poker player when you do play large field events, especially large field low buy-in, which I think is specific to the early bird, right? It's a $20 tournament, so it's a low buy-in tournament. But it's great because you get to fire multiple bullets. The good and the bad thing about when you play a large field, low buy-in tournament is it is just a minefield of bad beats and poker punches in the face that you have to deal with for the entire re-entry period. Probably the first third, maybe first 40% of the tournament, where people are just going to make calls where you're like, what was that? And their response is, very simply, whatever. It's a $20 tournament.
Whatever. It's $20.
I don't care. It's good.
I'll just rebuy, which has its ups and downs, obviously.
Well, let's start with re-entries or rebuys, whatever the case may be. In this particular instance, this is a re-entry tournament, which most tournaments have gone to now. They're re-entry, right? So that the hosting poker room can get the extra tournament fees, right?
Right. Which makes sense.
It does make sense.
It also, especially in our environment of charity poker, we aren't really heavily invested in making people drive all the way out to us and then have one rip at it. And then, they lose a race and it's like, all right, see you next time.
Not a lot of freeze outs because the tournament
buy-ins
are low.
Good for business.
Right. Yeah. All right. So if you're playing a large field tournament, let's go with how many times do you think it is? What's the number, or is there an over and under? So today's over and under for the over and under bar in Chicago. Over and under, what is the magic number for the early bird tournament that you are comfortable with? How many bullets fired before you go, all right, that's too many. You're just making a mockery of yourself now.
So me and you are going to clash heads and have different opinions on this.
Ooh, do you think I'm going to be higher or lower than you?
I think you're going to be lower.
Oh, nice. Lay it on me, dog.
The way I view like reentry might be different than other people, which is why I just think that like you got to go and look at it like it's your first entry in this tournament again. Instead of being like, oh, I'm in this thing 9 times, I got to get 12th place to get even.
Oh, wow.
Like I just view it like, all right, I just showed up for the CCG early bird. All right, I busted out. And I walk back up. It's like showing up to another 500 person tournament where it's your first entry.
Your idea is that you don't let it affect your play
Right.
or anything different. It's a new tournament every single time. If you decide to
get right. If you play 10 bullets, you just played 10 different $500 tournaments. Yes, it's all going to the same prize pool. And yes, you're in for $250 in your pocket right now in that room. But like, I just view it as like, I got to play 10 different tournaments, even though it's the same tournament. I don't let the number affect like your strategy or like difference. Like, sure, I might be slightly more tilted on my 10th buy-in than my first.
Right.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying like my number's unlimited. As many times as I have to go up to the cage, I'm just going to treat it like it's my first time up at the cage. So that's it. Unlimited.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, you're right. I would not have gone with unlimited.
Right. I mean, you only have an hour. So, I mean, obviously there's a number to.
Yeah. I mean, it's like
a finite
5,
number.
6.
Right. It's like how many times could you really lose all your chips and walk up to the cage?
Well,
I mean, even if you shove every hand, you might accidentally win 1 or 2 of them.
Right.
You know
yeah.
what I'm
That is
saying?
the problem.
It's just like, that is the problem. The
So your idea is
of trying
unlimited.
to lose.
You would just keep re-entering in the tournament as many times as you need to, as long as re-entry is open, and that's it.
Now, there is one other factor that is the late registration line or how many alternates there are or the situation of the tournament where, you know, maybe if you look up at the cage and there's 28 people waiting in line to get in, that might alter a little bit of my decision making.
I mean, you might not call a flush draw.
Right. You just now you say unlimited, but it's really unlimited due to the time constraints, which might be 3 because by the time you wait through the line. So that's a factor that's gonna, you know,
it's interesting.
Affect me a little bit, you know.
Sure,
I mean,
absolutely.
you gotta have that. I mean, there's times where
it's a thought in the back of your mind, right?
Right. There's been situations where you're like, this is gonna be my only shot because the line's too long. You know, I'm gonna play like it's my only shot.
A little more
like
conservatively,
right.
Take some better lines. I'm not going to push as much, like where if you're like, I'm 60-40 here, do I really want to flip? Well, I mean, statistically, you're like, well, yeah, I'm 60-40. I should be flipping here, but maybe you're like, I don't know.
Maybe I'll wait for a 70-30 or 80-20.
Yeah, I get that, especially if you're like 55-45. At that point, you're like, the line there, I think, is probably right there, right? Like, you really got to be more than...
I mean, like, even if I knew I can walk up and get a seat, I will take a flip. If the guy flips over 10,
60-40 the opposite way.
Ace Queen,
yeah,
I'll take a 60-40 out. Right, I'll take King Queen against Ace 7 just to try and double up my stack.
Right.
But if I lose, I can walk right back up to Aaron, give him $25 more and sit back down. I'm in. However, if I have King Queen and somebody shows me Ace 7 and I look at the line and there's 40 people, I'm mucking that shit, you know?
That's interesting.
So that it is a little bit of environmentally, you know, it's the environment of the tournament. It's like the same thing in those big WSOP, those like Colossuses. Sometimes you're waiting 2 hours
to get
for your next bullet.
Yeah. It affects how you're going to play.
That changes things a little bit, you know?
Well, plus, as you kind of get later in the registration or the late reg, you know, in the re-entry period, especially at the WSOP, those lines do die down, right? It's like everybody gets there a little bit late. It's the poker player stigma. I'm going to roll in at like the middle of the second period and then second level, and it's like then there's 300 people in line, and you're waiting for people to shuffle in and out, and it's a hassle. You're standing in line. You don't want to get out. Then inevitably, I do at least, and I have to immediately
the blinds are going off.
I have to immediately go pee the second I get into that line, and then it's like, do I ask the hippie kid in front of me, like, hey, can you hold my seat, or do I ask like the crotchety old guy behind me? Like, neither one of them are going to save my spot, so it's like, might as well just not, you know,
and then you have 7 stars and
that kills
diamond
me.
People just constantly cutting in front of you, which is their status that they are.
Side note, at the WSOP, I went, you know me, I like to do the super late night buy-ins.
Yes.
So I do like 4 o'clock in the morning buy-in. So when I bought into the PLO tournament, I got up at like 4:30. Now I have weird hours. I have young kids.
You're weird, yeah.
And I'm also the only guy in Vegas that probably went to bed that night at like 9:30 because I was like, I just want to go to sleep, and then I'll get up early and do some weird late night stuff.
Yeah, everybody in Vegas is waking up from their naps to get ready to go out at 11 or 12, and you're like, I'm 3 hours into my night's sleep here. This is great.
So I kid you not, it's a ghost town. I walk over there. It's great. Get a cab. It was like $1.80 for a cab from the Venetian down to Paris. And I get in there, go to the registration area. There's not a single person in line. So I obviously I'm not walking through this like zigzag stanchion lines. I'm just like, what is this? I'm just like hopping underneath it. Go up front, and there's like 3 people there, but like obviously they're like not paying attention because it's 4:30 in the morning and there's nobody around.
Right.
So it's no big deal. And sure enough, like I pop up, and the guy's like, "I got you, man." And I kid you, like a second later, a guy comes down the 7-star line, and he was like, "Yo, 7-star." And the guy's like, "Yeah, so is he," and just let me go in front of him. Because he's like, "Bro, I'm not gonna let that guy just jump in front of you. There's 2 fucking people lines, 4:30 in the morning." He's like, "I'm not doing that." The guy was super cool, and then I told him I was buying into the PLO. He's like, "Oh, is there a PLO today?" I was like, "Yeah, I mean, it's in like 12 hours. It's like 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Noon, but yeah, it's at 2.
Yeah, it's in 10 hours." And he was like, "Oh yeah, man, how much is it?" I was like, 10,000. He's like, "Damn." He's like, "You that good?" I was like, "No." He's like, "You a pro, right?" I was like, "No, I'm kind of taking my shot here." It's like, I'm behind. He was so cool. It was such a great experience. I was like, I want to know your name. Like, I want to like tweet out to Caesars and be like, this guy was amazing.
This guy's awesome.
And he fucked the 7-star guy because he was just like, no, like, come on, dude. There's one guy in line, and you want to pull 7-star status and just like make him wait? Like, no, like he was here first.
Wait,
sorry,
20 seconds.
You can come next, right? So I thought that was pretty cool. All right, so Brandon's number for re-entries in a tournament is unlimited, which is definitely more than I would have gone for. I think it's the same number because I don't think you could theoretically. I wonder if somebody could
enough time to not want to
like $100 would be like kind of my number of like 5 entries into a tournament because I do think about it in the sense of, and maybe I shouldn't, but I do. When you play a bigger field event, even like when we play a WSOP circuit event, the PLO tournament, right? $600, and I'm kind of fully on board with 2 bullets. Like I'm comfortable. I'm going in expecting to spend $1,200, 2 entries. 100%, I'm paying $1,200 for this tournament. The question is, do I do a 3rd bullet to go up to $1,800? And I'm like, meh, maybe not. Well, when I started thinking about it in February at the Horseshoe PLO circuit event, I got 11th place. Do you know how much 11th place paid? It's a rhetorical question. I know you don't actually know how much it got paid.
$1,488.
Close, 16 and change.
Yeah.
It was like that's 11th place out of 230,
Right. Yep.
At that point, 3 entries into a tournament to have to get it top 10, and even 10th place was like 1,800 or something. Like
you got a final table to quote unquote break even.
And that to me seems like not a great statistical reason to buy in 3 times to a bullet, or you go full Jordan and buy like 6 times into an event where you have to get like 4th place to break even.
Yeah,
which has happened.
Yes, but see, that's just the mindset. Like I would just view it like, all right, I played a PLO 200-person buy-in once and I lost, and now I played another one once and I lost, and now I'm entering a 3rd time.
Yeah, I guess if you thought about it, if it was like every Saturday this tournament happened at the
right. If you did this tournament 3 Saturdays in a row, you would. You're
right. I would think about it completely different.
600.
Yeah, I would think about it completely different than if I played 3 bullets in one tournament. To me, feels different. Wow, I didn't know this was going to be a re-entry limited discussion so heavily, but I'm kind of blown away because you're right. I totally view it differently than if I'd have spent the same amount of money and it just was over 3 weeks.
Right, but we're not offered this tournament 3 weeks in a row. We're offered it twice a year.
Yeah.
So
I don't even go to Elgin.
Right, and neither did I.
Yeah. All right, interesting. I like it. So
Yeah.
yours is
So
unlimited.
it just depends on how you look at it,
Yeah, and your quote is don't
let the previous losses affect your current buying situation. Like, don't try and chase your winnings in a single tournament. Like, it's all just
I kind of do this one ongoing tournament entries versus payouts, like not a big deal. You got to think of it as a long game, not a short one tournament off.
It's like the same thing in a cash game when you're stuck. It's like,
I always do
you
that.
Go home. You can go home. It's one session. It's one long session.
Well, then I end up buying in. Don't make a call because I'm like, well, I'm already down, $2,000 playing PLO, and I don't want to make this other $1,200 call. Where I'm going to be down 3,000. It's like you shouldn't be thinking that way. It should be like, is this a good spot? Is it a right move? Is it not? Which I guess kind of goes along the whole line here of no matter what you're playing, cash game or tournament, big field or small field, single table tournament or the main event, like you should be making the same decision no matter what. It's just whatever the situation calls for. Versus, we all know there are many factors that we take into account that maybe you shouldn't.
Correct. And we're all guilty of that as poker players.
Absolutely.
That's the flaws that we try and improve ourselves on.
All right, strategy-wise, in a large field tournament versus a small field tournament, do you feel like you have to get off to a faster start, build a bigger chip stack early to carry you through those kind of middle rounds that get more difficult when you're in like a large field event versus like a single table tournament? I never feel like I got to get off to a hot start because there's only 10 players. Like,
right, you can get it back. You just survive, get it all back later, figure out a spot. Yeah.
Right. I feel like
your time will come.
Right. I do that in a single table.
Right. In the huge fields, it's like, man, there's a guy at $30K starting stake. There's a guy with 200,000 already. Yeah. I mean, I don't do good personally with like going up and then going back down. Like getting your 30K starting stack up to 90 and then like back down to 40. We're like relatively, you're perfectly fine, but you just had 90.
So you're kind of worried about being up stuck. See, it's funny. I never feel like I'm up stuck in a tournament. Meaning you're up.
Wow.
30K starting stack. I run up to 100.
What about the PLO?
Yeah. I think I went on tilt from a different thing. I wasn't worried about being up stuck. I was just, I was pissed about, bad.
Getting coolered. Yeah.
Coolered.
Getting coolered in a 10K tournament that you flew to Vegas for your once-a-year shot.
Yeah, that cooler was a Yeti. That thing was bear-proof.
Nut boat against quad. That doesn't feel good.
No problem. On the river. No big deal.
But in general,
chips.
In general, it's very nice to get off the fast starts.
Absolutely.
I mean, obviously, the problem with the big fields is like even big pots end up being not that big. That's a weird way to word it, but like even if you triple up in the early levels from 30K to 90K, there comes a point in time when that 90K is nothing anymore.
Right.
In a big field tournament, where if you're going to sit and go and there's only 10 total stacks, 300,000.
That's chips, a fair point.
And you triple up and you got 90K. Well, that 90K is
30% of the chips in play. Right.
It's 30% of the chips in play, like for the whole tournament. Like for as long as high as the blinds go, 90,000 is a shit ton of chips.
Yep, I can see that.
Where 12 hours into a circuit main event, that 90,000 is
really not
a shorty. Yeah, you're 10 bigs. So that's just the thing where you just have to keep accumulating. There is just no like big spots because like, yes, there's big spots and you can earn chips. And I know the Maria Ho saying where it is nice to have big chips because they can lose a big pot and still have chips and be in the tournament.
Right.
But like, you just have to take spot after spot after spot after spot. And like, that's why large field tournaments, there's so much variance in it because the best players, like how many 80-20s can you win? 4 out of 5, right?
Yeah, 4 out of 5.
Right. So even if you're running hot and you win 7 straight aces versus 9s, like you're going to lose one.
You're going to lose one.
Right.
You just
hope
can
you're
go
not a whole entire sit and go.
Right.
You're gonna get 2 80-20s. You're gonna win them both, and you're gonna win the sit and go.
Right.
So it is tough. I mean, that's the thing with the large field tournaments. You're never comfortable. You're comfortable, but there's always more work to be done in a large field tournament.
Yeah, no breaks.
No breaks. You might have like an hour where you're comfortable and there's a bunch of shorties at your table and you're not one of them. But an hour in these 40-hour tournaments is nothing. That's 2.5% of the tournament. So you might be comfortable for a little bit, but
It ain't going to last long.
it ain't going to last.
Let's talk about
go
what
ahead,
kind of
'cause
parlay
this is
right into that is the idea of table image, and how table image at a single table tournament is significantly more important than, say, your table image in a very large field event.
Yeah. You want to elaborate, or you want me to just fire right in? I feel like I've been talking the whole time, but
well, I mean, you're our expert, and I'm really asking questions about this.
I'm the guest expert.
Yeah, that's why you're the guest this episode, because you're the expert.
Sure.
I mean, you're supposed to be our technical one. I'm just here to be funny and keep the podcast moving.
I would say table image. Yeah, sometimes you move it backwards, but it's okay. It's still moving.
One way or another.
Table image, going back to my WSOP main event, which are obviously the largest field tournaments I've played.
Absolutely.
There on day 2, I went through, I want to say maybe like 6 tables.
Oh, wow.
Maybe 7 tables in the 10 hours of play. Whereas day 3, I stayed on the same table all 10 hours. So using, our logic here, the table image on those, 2, you can't really build up much of a rapport and use your table image as much, nor can you accumulate information from all these other people, because you're going to be breaking relatively quick. And that is one of the things, knowing the break order in a large field tournament is kind of important. Knowing if you're going to be playing with these guys for the next 4 hours or it's going to be 40 minutes.
You can invest in some different types of plays, show some bluffs or show some cards, so they kind of get that information out there, and hopefully people pick up on it and use it again to your advantage later. Whereas, when you see that table 119 is breaking and 118, 117, and you're 111, it's going to be pretty quick here. Not a lot of investment can be made in that short term, right?
Right. And it's the same kind of thing, if you know CCG tournaments, generally we break down. So if you get table 1 in a 5-table deep stack, you are going to be more inclined.
Right.
You're going to be, most of the time at the final table is going to be table 1. So you're going to be playing with those group of guys that survive as long as you do the whole entire time.
Right.
Whereas if you're on table 5, you're like, well, okay, break's over. I see Aaron's got 3 cards up there. We're 6 players away from my table breaking. Obviously that's a very micro example, but there is going to be times when it's very important, and there's times when it's not important at all.
I just feel like, again, if you're playing in a 2 or 3 table tournament, you're going to interact with, I don't want to say
those same 20 guys.
Yeah,
really.
Not less players, but like theoretically, like you're only going to experience playing with, your table image matters a little bit more. And even when you move table, like half your table might be going to the new spot. You know what I mean? So like,
correct.
There's more
your
people
table
there.
Breaks, right. Yeah, your table breaks in a WSOP event. You ain't seeing any of those guys ever again.
Correct. And then you go into a large field stuff, and the idea is that you break, you go to a new spot. It's like you're at the baseline. You're back to 0. Nobody has any idea what you're doing, and you kind of have to play accordingly. Of like, kind of need to sit back a little bit. I also find that that's what's most I don't want to say stressful, but like one of the mental fatigue things that I get is that when you do move to another table in these big events, it's that the idea of it's like, well, fuck, now I got to start over being like, all right, this guy seems to know what he's doing. This guy's got his stacks in stacks of 50, so he's a mop. Clearly, I don't have to worry about him. This guy's always, you know what I mean? Like you have to start paying attention to people's
tendencies and
mannerisms and their betting patterns and stuff, where you kind of just fall into it. If you've been at a table for an hour or two, you just kind of absorb it. Just being a player in the game, you just kind of feel what's going on. But when you first sit down, I feel like, and that's the problem with large field events, right? Like if you are playing in a small, like 2, 3, 4 table, and you move over and you got a new table, and it's like, all right, well, these 2 guys were at my table from last time, and she was with me at the first table, so I kind of remember what was going on. So like that's 4 out of the 9 players. That's like half the table. I already have
plus yourself. You don't count you. So there's only 4 guys you don't know.
Right. Right. I feel pretty good. Like I feel like I've got half the table at least somewhat a plan for. Whereas you go in these fucking Amazon room and you walk in, one, I can't find the table. Two, I'm trying to ask people where I'm going, and the floors are yelling at you because they're trying to move 8,000 people around in a small area, so they don't want to tell you what's going on. And then you sit down at a table and you realize you're at white 75 instead of purple 75, and I was like, why are they even numbered the same? But you got to go find that spot. So...
Yeah, now I do.
And then I don't know a
have
single
seen-
person in the room unless they're Phil Ivey, in which case,
right,
like,
in the
fuck, I don't
room,
want to play
like-
with him anyways.
And that's the thing, you move and you sit at a table and a guy steals your big blind every single time for 4 hours. You kind of know that he's maybe full of shit the ninth time he raises his button in a row. You come over to a new table, you got a chip leader, 2 to your right on his button, and he min clicks it back to you, and you're in the big blind. It's like, all right, well, what does this mean? Like, there's people at the table that knows what this means, but I'm not. I don't know what this means. Is he stealing? Has he never done this? Does he do this every single time? Is he good? Is he bad? Is he crazy? Is he passive? Is he aggressive? There's just so many things. And I agree with you. That is part of the mental fatigue, is like relearning. But at the same time, you can kind of reestablish yourself. You were tilting over there in Amazon room, purple 75.
True.
You move over to white 184, and you muck your first 7 hands. All these guys think you're a nit.
Right.
It's kind of like when you move to college. You can, you could be whoever you want to be.
You can reinvent yourself.
Like, you're right. You could be, you were whatever, a band geek in high school. You go to college, you can be the cool bro that plays football and does handstands. It's like
Only one of us was a band geek in high school.
That's true. It was tough to get me up for keg stands too. But I see people on Twitter like complaining that they have to table change so much, or like your table breaks. It's like, our world famous Ben Keyline, CCG historical dealer.
Yep.
He tweeted back,
millionaire
winner. Tweeted back, he's like, the whole point of big field tournaments is to consolidate down tables and make it farther. You should not be tilting that you've had them.
You should be happy.
Your tables broke 7 times. You should be happy that you're still in the tournament to be able to be broken 7 times.
Yeah, I'm sitting on the sidelines. When early bird people, new tables,
right? When the early bird people, they move from table 22 to table 20, then they move from 20 to 18.
Sucks.
When you go back to table 18, I just broke 18 minutes ago. I get it, but you're still in the tournament to be broken.
Right.
Like, what's the alternative? Don't get broken?
There are 50 other players that just busted out in that last 18 minutes.
They would love to
love to have the aggravation of moving tables.
Yep.
It is what it is. Large field events are fun. They're a little bit different. A lot more moving
just less
parts.
Comfortable, right? There's just so much more movement in them. That's the best way to just describe it. Your comfort level, you're never comfortable. No matter if it's chip stacks, because you always need more, whether it's your table because you're always moving, whether it's the aggravation of the floor telling you to kick rocks for the 9th time in 4 hours.
Right.
There's a lot of just stuff going on that
your complaints don't go as far either. Like, if you're like, oh man, it's really cold in here, can we get like some heat on? And he's like, bro, there's 8,000 people in here. Like, nobody cares what you think.
Right.
I'm going to need a vote here and a majority rule on the temperature in the room, which is never going to happen. So just go ahead and pretend that you didn't say anything.
Yeah. When there's 2 tables left in the CCG deep stack and 4 of them are like, it's cold in here.
Now
we go turn on the heat.
Now we can make some moves. You're not going to get any moves made when there's 30 tables in a tournament left and you're 1 out of 30 and you're 1/10 out of a 30 table. Yeah, it's not going to happen. 1 out of
300th.
Yeah,
that's not very important.
Statistically, you don't matter as much.
I would say just to end, like, when preparing to play an early bird tournament that's way bigger than prior early birds coming up here in the next couple of days.
Exponentially. Because like big birds now are like 80, 90 players. We're talking about on a low end.
Triple that on the low end.
Low end, you're going to have, I think 300 is over for sure.
So 4x, 4 times a big early bird. Go into it knowing that your table image isn't going to matter as much. Know the break order. Don't get aggravated when you move 4 times, even if you move into the big blind 2 of those 4 times. Right. It's going to be okay.
It's going to happen.
It's the whole process, and there's a lot of moving parts, and just try and ride with the flow and realize that you're never safe, even though you're chip leader 2 hours in. That is 20 big blinds in another hour.
Right.
So, always be aware of, and you can only control what you can control. It's like there's no point in looking over at table number 9 and seeing a guy with $1 million in chips when the chip leader at your table is 100,000. You can only deal with the 8 people and the cards you're dealt at your table.
And that's
Don't worry about chip leaders and who's in and what's going on elsewhere. Concentrate on your little nugget of 9 people in the tournament
section of the world,
and do your best to get out of that section. That's it.
That's all you can do. Survive. You know what the best idea for
survive in advance,
large
baby.
Is just survive. Just keep surviving.
Yep.
Keep in the tournament, keep going, and hope for the best. Well, I hope everybody has a wonderful Thanksgiving, enjoys all of those food and leftovers. I did see a really great video on TikTok how you could make Thanksgiving leftover sushi. Seems like a lot of work, but it looked cool. If you're into that. I also saw my daughter and I are going to make Thanksgiving-themed tacos later.
Nice.
Which are super cool. You put like stuffing on the outs. It's dope. It looked so good. I was like, how did nobody think of this earlier? And I was like, I'm very much into this idea of.
Is it going to be gravy in the gravy?
Yeah, you take the tortillas and you like put them in like the uncooked like Stouffer's topping stuffing.
Oh yeah.
And then you like cook it for like 2-3 minutes in the oven, so it's like a nice hard shell. And then you put like turkey and stuffing and cranberry sauce and gravy and all kinds of mashed potatoes. It sounds so good.
You're speaking my language here.
I love Thanksgiving. I love Thanksgiving for 2 reasons. 1, it's a great holiday. 2, it's an excuse to just eat whatever you want. And then 3, the largest charity poker event of the year is going to be the next day, which is fun. Plus, you get some Black Friday sales that you can do looking on your phone, and the world's a happy place. Survive, dodge as much aggravation as possible because there's going to be a lot of it. It just is what it is. Other than that, enjoy your big birds and your big field
and keep
events.
on rebuying until the registration's closed.
Rip
guys.
it. Keep
you don't
going.
drive all the way to Bella Banquets to fire 2 bullets and say, I don't want to wait in line.
I don't want to wait in line.
Fire it. Let's go.
Because it's the largest early bird of the year. It's not getting any bigger till next year. You only get 1 shot at glory, and then next year's going to have to wait.
Right. So take 8 shots at your 1 shot at glory.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time. Lead us out of here, Brando.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Farewell.
See ya.